Hey everybody, thanks for watching Sama. I'm Darek Mazzone, your host. I wanted to give you a little bit of introduction to the video that's coming up in just a little bit. A bit of history. Sama started right before the pandemic, and we were going to be supporting artists and venues who are celebrating and allowing artists from all over the world to come and play in the Pacific Northwest. COVID hit, venues shut down. We went online, and that's how I've been reaching you here right now. The pandemic is waning a little bit, inshallah, and shows are coming back. And so we're supporting these shows right now. One of them is happening on March 24th. It's at the Meany Center for the Performing Arts at the University of Washington in the Seattle area. And it is a concert called Strings for Peace. Now, I got a chance to speak to a few of the members of Strings for Peace. I talked to Sharon Isbin and I talked to Ayaan Ali Bangash. He is the son of Amjad Ali Khan, who I'm a huge fan of. He's a sarod player. He and his brother Amaan are going to be performing with Sharon Isbin, who's a phenomenal guitarist out of New York. The show's the 24th. This is a beautiful example of North Indian classical music tied to Spanish guitar styling. It's a beautiful piece. I've been playing it on my radio show on KEXP Wopop, which you should check out also every Tuesday from 7 to 10 p.m. and online. I interviewed the artists. We didn't get a chance to do a performance, but they gave me this beautiful video of their work that explains what they're doing. So I want to share that with you first, then my interview with the artists, all encouraging you to go to our website, click the ticket button, and buy yourself some tickets to go check out the show happening March 24th at the Meany Center for the Performing Arts at 8 p.m. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you like what you see here, and you like what you hear, please support us, like us, and share on all the social media platforms that we've been lucky enough to present Sama. Be well, and thanks again.
Language creates barriers, but music always connects the people. Music always connects the country. Music does not belong to any religion. Like flowers, air, fire, fragrance, colors, they don't belong to any religion. Through appealing music, plants grow faster. Cattle give more milk. Even for the human being, it's a therapy for the mind and body, whether the musician belongs to America, Europe, or wherever. But only 7 musical notes, they have connected the whole world. Music has connected the world. So working with Sharon Isbin is a great honor and great pleasure because she's one of the greatest guitar player of the world.
It took a long time to find the right partners to really make it a realization on the guitar. We have so many interesting similarities and differences. The sarod, for example, has no frets, and the guitar, each pitch is determined by a fret. So you have a freedom on the sarod to have all the in-between pitches and to have a kind of melismatic, beautiful embellishment. Guitar is different, but when we combine together, you have this extraordinary blend.
In a time where everything is getting violent, people are losing patience, losing humility, we have come together as musicians where we are letting go of what we are best at, but trying to get into a situation where we can get the best out of the other person.
Strings for Peace, I think today is a project that is extremely relevant because I think peace is something that we need in abundance, especially in the times we live in. So I think music is the best way to reach out, to convey the message of unity, the message of diversity, that we all have a common DNA and we all have a common journey collectively. And if we walk that journey with dignity, grace, and love, I think then the world will just be a beautiful place to live in.
Everybody, welcome to Sama. I'm Darek Mazzone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. I'm here with Sharon Isbin and Ayaan Ali Bangash. They are members of the band Strings for Peace, who are going to be performing at Meany Center for the Arts at the University of Washington. We're co-presenting this show. I've been a fan of this record for a while, and I've been a fan of each artist. They're virtuosos, and they have dedicated their lives to this. So thanks for being here, everybody.
Such a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank
Hope
you,
you're
Derek.
well. I don't use the term virtuoso lightly, because I've been doing this for many a decade and I've seen some amazing musicians in all types. But you have dedicated yourselves to these instruments at a level that it kind of speaks to who you are in an emotive state. And this is one of the magic things that I like about musicians, that ones that actually truly dedicate themselves to this. You can start expressing things that don't come out in words easily. What brought you to tell me your origin story. What brought you to this?
I'm really, by accident, a guitarist because our family moved to Italy from Minneapolis when I was 9 years old.
That's
And
culture shock.
yes, my father is a scientist and was asked to do some consulting work there. So when my older brother requested guitar lessons, my parents got excited because they found a wonderful teacher who had studied with Segovia, was commuting to our little town, Varese, from Milan twice a week, and was concertizing all over Italy. They brought my brother in for the interview. He realized it was classical, and he said, "No way, I want to be the next Elvis Presley." So he bowed out, and I volunteered to take his place.
Oh wow, that's a lot of guts right there.
Well, that meant that I didn't have to continue my piano lessons. So I thought it was a good swap.
So it was a good swap. But so music was going to be it, whether it was going to be
Not
piano
at
or
all.
something.
No, I became very serious about rocket science when we returned to Minneapolis a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And my father used to bribe me by saying, "You can't launch your rockets until you put in an hour on the guitar." Eventually, I met Segovia, had some lessons with him, won a competition to perform as soloist for 10,000 people with the Minnesota Orchestra, and I decided that was even more fun than sending my worms and grasshoppers up into space. So at 14, I had a conversion and decided I would be a guitarist instead of a scientist.
Okay, right on. We are grateful for that choice.
So it's been such an honor working with Sharon in this project called Strings for Peace. She, of course, is truly a legendary figure in the world of guitar, and a household name to her craft. And also, again, a big honor for me and my brother to be working on yet another project with my father. So for me, I mean, obviously, because music has been in the family for many generations, we were literally left in the ocean to swim. So we didn't really have a choice. Before we knew it, we were already playing. Before we knew it, we were already performing. We were already on stage. But again, I think the very conscious effort always has been, and it still is, that never to take any opportunity for granted, never to take that platform for granted. So you have to literally, write your own story, and literally you're writing your own story every day. You're just as good as your last recording, your last concert, and then you start over. So I think a life of a classical musician, at least, is that he or she is a student till the last day they walk the planet. And I think music is something that got us all together, and the collective belief that music is something that has no barriers. We are one big family of musicians sharing the same 12 notes all around the world.
That's a beautiful story. I love how in your bio, your father, Amjad Ali Khan, talks about how music has no national identity, no religious identity. It is something about vibration that connects everybody together, and that's been, in many ways, my charter, especially with Sama, with Cakesby also, but with charter, with Sama, where it's like we celebrate diversity, but anything that we do champions our shared humanity. And I try to highlight and point to artists that are on that same path, where something about that music brings everybody together. And you don't have to understand the language, you don't have to understand the creed, you don't have to understand the culture or the history of that. It helps, but you don't have to. Something happens on
Yes.
stage where everybody in the audience falls in love with everybody else and falls in love with the artist. There's something that happens there. And obviously, in the world right now, there's good parts and really shitty parts. Something about music and musicians creates that weaving, and that is super important. And as things cycle, I've been around the block a few times, I find that musicians such as yourselves are really, really important, where they're going to allow a break in the same patterns repeating themselves over and over again. One of the first shows that I ever worked on was with Nusrat Ali Khan when he came through Seattle, and people still talk about that show like it changed their lives. It was like they were elevated. Something else happened, and I've been, like, to your point, I'm always learning. I'm always looking for that next experience.
Yeah, I'm saying that I think even for Strings for Peace, even for Sharon, for all of us, it's very much the same ethos. We all resonated. What you are saying, all these things that you're saying, I think that was a very integral part of us coming together. Because end of the day, when you are doing any project, you have to collectively also vibe on a personal level, and then music flows. Because end of the day, I think music is a reflection of who you are as a person, as an individual, and all that. The idea is to have a beautiful bouquet of flowers on stage.
And it's amazing how we came together because about a dozen years ago, I received an email from Amjad Ali Khan asking if I would be interested in collaborating with him. So we met in New York. I got to hear him and his sons perform in concert. I said, this is just fabulous. I love it. I love what you're doing. I'd already been familiar with North Indian classical music from my college years, which was something that really spoke to me, and I had attended concerts at that time. So every year we would get together in New York, and I would hear them, and he'd say, we're working on the project. Finally, after 10 years, I thought this is never going to happen. And then one day in November of 2018, the end of the month, my inbox filled with ragas. And I began to listen. I said, this is just extraordinary. And Ayaan said, well, that's good because we've already booked a tour to do with you in 2 months all throughout India, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta. The halls were available. We grabbed them. I said, couldn't we wait a little bit off into the future? And he said, no, this is the moment. Let's do it. So I was so in love with the music that I moved mountains to make it happen. I even had to cancel some things on my schedule, and it was really a transformative experience, one of the most beautiful, to be able to, first of all, visit India, where being a transcendental meditator since I was 17 years old, to visit the country where that originated many, many thousands of years ago, and to work with Maestro Khan and his two brilliant sons and create this music that for me really spoke to my heart. After that tour, we said, this is just so powerful, we have to make a recording. And it turned out that, so this was February 2019 that we did the tour in India. And then in April, they had 1.5 days free in New York City. And we booked a hall, we went in, recorded the music, and the album Strings for Peace was released in May of 2020 and has won all kinds of acclaims and awards.
That's a beautiful story. There's a caveat to that story, is that you recorded and you played in India, the record comes out, and then a pandemic hits.
Right.
And so you're not doing anything.
No, we were doing a lot, actually, in the sense that being stuck at home, For example, I had two albums released at the same time. Affinity, which was music from three different continents, composers who had written for me, including the son of Dave Brubeck, Chris Brubeck, a fabulous concerto, and Strings for Peace, both released in May 2020. So suddenly I was landlocked and had all kinds of time. I set up a studio, learned how to use a webcam, and did over 50 interviews with radio and press throughout the world. So I was so busy, I didn't even have time to watch movies. But even though we weren't performing live in person on stages, we were all very busy.
Oh, I know. I mean, this whole project started the pandemic too. But there is something as we came out of the pandemic, inshallah.
We
Um,
haven't come out of the
we
pandemic. It is still raging, and over 4,000 people a week are dying in the United
yes,
States. So we still have to be careful and be very aware of that and not pretend it's over.
absolutely. But the experience of performing this on stage in front of an audience is that magic spot. It's one thing to be talking, if I'm interviewing you at, like, say, Meany Center, and people are listening to getting our vibration, that's a whole other thing. It's another thing if you're just performing in front of a camera or talking in front of a camera. It's important, but it doesn't create that kind of
Of course,
experience
right.
that
No,
you
the
have.
live experience means we're feeding from the energy of the audience. They are
Yeah.
influencing us. I'll never forget in India, after our last concert, which was in Delhi, and the audience was standing on its feet, clapping with a standing ovation and cheering. One man yelled out, "You did it! You did it! You did it!" And it was as if he was cheering me on, the person who was not from that country, for having been
Hmm.
able to roll with everything and keep up with these incredible sarod players and tabla, all of that, and just to be able to create a new instrument by the combination of what we had to offer. And I can say that when I opened the concert, which I will do in Seattle with a solo Spanish piece by Albanese that I've played many hundreds of times, when I played it at our first concert in India, I suddenly heard it with new ears. I was listening to viscerally, I could feel the migration of the nomads from India traversing hundreds of years ago through different lands, many of whom landed in Spain and became part of the movement to create flamenco with
Yeah.
gypsies there. So I was listening to this music, and suddenly it encapsulated North Indian classical as well as Spanish and flamenco and Spanish guitar and all of that tradition. So it is definitely an opportunity to perform live is something that cannot be equaled by any other experience.
This is why I like the music that you guys are putting out, because you tap into the history of the Moorish history of Spain, and the Gypsy Road and how it moves. It's like you're able to weave a story that has a past and a present, and yet at the same time speaks to a future. And I love the name Strings for Peace and how it came about. And I'm curious if you could tell me a little bit more about that. But it really did resonate with me. It's a lot of music in Seattle. We hear a lot, but there's something about this and this opportunity at Meany that you're kind of like you're not being scholars exactly, but you're creating something that has a unique life of its own that isn't tied to the Western cultural hegemony that is happening right now in music, and you're pointing to the future. And it's a little abstract in me saying this, but it's like all of these different cultures, their histories and everything, need to be elevated and need to be presented on par with everything else, or we're just going to run into the same cycles over and over again. So, can you speak to a little bit about the Strings for Peace?
Well, I think Sharon has very beautifully conveyed so many aspects of the project. But I think I'll address your question and also a few things around it. I think, like Sharon said, obviously we all saw the silver lining during the pandemic, especially during the lockdown, rather. But obviously, as performing artists, we were miserable because we were so used to that fodder on stage, that inspiration on stage. But I have to say that so many venues, including Meany Center, they really it was a big challenge. And actually, I think one of the only virtual events we did during that time was with them. And it was a combination of a little bit of speaking and a little bit of pre-recorded material which we shared. And it was a big challenge, but I do remember that I think the first time we obviously toured with Sharon, it was just my brother, me, and Sharon in India. But the first time Strings for Peace performed live was, I think, Sharon at Carmore Festival, right, in July 2021. Yeah. 2021, and that time, Delta was just again back, or rather had just kind of started, and everyone was masked up. It was half capacity, so things, there was so much going on at so many levels. I mean, the presenters did not know that will this go on for a while or will they have to shut everything again. So at so many levels, the release happening at a time when I think humanity had to maybe just do a retrospect, a introspect, think about where we are today as human beings, all of that. So I think this project released just around that time without us realizing it. I mean, that was not the plan. I mean, the plan was to,
But what's interesting is that you and your father named the album
yeah.
Strings for Peace in 2019 before we knew what direction the world would turn in. And if you could just say a little bit about it, your philosophy and his philosophy, where that title came from, I think that would be fascinating to the
Right, it's
people
pretty much,
watching right now.
what Derek mentioned a while ago is that I think for me, I mean, for my father, I mean, he feels that we are a global village. I mean, every human being, we're all connected. And music is something that, transcends race, transcends barriers, uh, and so many, so it just kind of just unites us all as, souls, as human beings. So that's something which even musically, sarod and guitar, they come technically from the same family. Obviously, there's so many differences. Guitar has frets. Sarod, we are playing with our fingernails. Guitar is played with the fingertips. But I don't think the sarod and the classical guitar ever had a collaboration of this nature before. In fact, when we toured in India, it was a new, I think, awakening for the classical guitar, even in India, because guitar was always linked so much to rock and roll and to jazz. So, for the music lovers in India to see how the classical guitar can sing, I mean, obviously that's Sharon, but how the instrument can sing, how it can do so much as an acoustic instrument and a classical instrument. That I think was really a revelation. I mean, obviously the perhaps connoisseurs were available, but an average listener always linked the guitar more to jazz and rock and roll and that world. So that's why, to have the sarod and guitar score put together, it took forever. We are very thankful to a gentleman called Kyle Paul, who was one of my father's students when he was doing a residency at Jacob School of Music. So everything I think was destined. It fell in place. It came together. I think following Carmore, we performed in Florida. We've done so many shows together, and we are so looking forward to the tour next month with Sharon. Truly looking forward.
And in this tour that brings us to Meany Hall at the end of it, we're playing in
March
Minneapolis.
24th.
Right, March 24th, Meany Hall. We're playing also in Minneapolis, in Houston, in Austin, and in Calgary, Canada. So it's a chance for us to have a fabulous reunion and revisit this beautiful music.
Well, you have a sarod icon and a guitar icon on stage, and three admirers around them. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna have fun. I'm sure music lovers who have followed the journey of classical music or the journey of even global music, and I'm sure there are so many people who are following Sharon's beautiful journey as well. So I think we'll have a nice blend of lovers of a few genres of music coming together. It's going to be an interesting room, God willing. So yeah.
I have to say that when Amjad and Ayaan and Amaan, his two brilliant virtuoso sons, improvise, which they do throughout the concert, it is electrifying. And each concert is different from the one previous and the one that will be in the future. And I have to remember to come in because I'm sitting there with my jaw dropping on the floor, just totally ecstatic from what I'm hearing on stage. So it is for sure a spontaneous combustion experience for the musicians and for the audience.
You see, the thing is that because Indian classical music is not a written score, but in this, when we do collaborations like the one we've done with Sharon, we also, follow a written score. So, I mean, for us, it's also something outside the box. It's not technically our world, but then that's what collaborations make you do. You have to, you have to collectively, uh, make an effort to make something look beautiful or sound beautiful, and that's how things move forward. And my father has a relationship with Seattle because he did a residency at Washington University many years ago as well.
And my father,
Oh
my
wow,
father
there we
was
go.
born in Seattle. So I
Yeah,
There we
wouldn't
go.
be here if it weren't for Seattle.
There we go. That's beautiful. No, that's great. The School of Ethnomusicology has been doing good work. I mean, Zakir was the first artist in residence here in 1969. I have to show you the film of that. It was so good. It's like, Zakir as a 1969 hippie and everybody just losing their mind over him. So it'll be a nice show. I'm glad we're able to share this. I'm glad we're able to have you guys back. Let's go back to the beginning. It's like, thank you for traveling. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for supporting this art form. Thank you for gracing our stages here in the Pacific
And
Northwest.
thank you for hosting us today.
Anytime. And the next time you come back, spend a little more time, because the thing about this region right now is that it's a really, really good way to support the artists and the genre.
No, and we feel very passionate to perform at this venue because this venue kept the show going for artists when the world had just shut down.
Yeah.
So we really value venues like this that kept the show going in whatever capacity. It was not easy. It was challenging, but we're so glad that they included us even at that junction where the planet was.
Thank you for being here.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for watching so much.
Thank you.
Sharon,
Take care.
Ayaan, be well, be safe.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you. Thanks.
once again, massive success. Thanks for watching Sama, Seattle Circuit Music and Art. And please follow us on every single platform we're on. Spread the word, and let's see what we can do to help music and musicians and stories make the world a better place.